raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Sheree Geo. I will be your conductor this evening beyond the veil. I'm joined, of course, by your other conductor, Mrs. Geo.
Good evening, everyone.
The little twin and my wife. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary on December 21st, 2017. So, 5-year wedding anniversary, yes, of course. We've known each other longer than that. But we didn't want to jump into marriage right off the bat. You know, we wanted to get to know each other first, and you know,
it wasn't just that though. I think when we got together, I mean, it was right off the bat. Both of us didn't really see relationships the way normal people do, and so like marriage and a house and kids and all of that. That's just not. That works for a lot of people, and that's great. But it was deeper for us. It was a lot deeper than just, going and begging the state for a piece of paper that says you're bound to each other for the rest of your lives.
That is very true. Now, it is the eve of Christmas, and this is try number 3 here tonight. Yes. So I think I know what I'm going to get myself for Christmas, which is a brand new computer.
I think that might be a good idea.
Hit a blue screen just a minute ago. Hopefully that won't happen again tonight. If it does, I don't know if we'll try it again or not. Hopefully, everybody just send good energy to make sure that there's no blue screens or anything weird like that going on. But we wanted to spend Christmas Eve with each and every one of you because this is a time for friends and family, and the BTV friends and family here are just that to us. I mean, it's just not the same. We went out and had an anniversary dinner last night, and we went to the casino, and Sheree, she lost $160, and then she won 180, and then she lost 20. So we got to play for free for several hours. It was a lot of fun. I mean, we broke completely even, like to the dollar even.
Yes.
So that was kind of cool. She's really good with slots and all of that.
Yeah.
So we were talking last night, and we were like, man, we should have done a show, and we should have spent our anniversary with our friends and family. And I said, well, since we didn't do that, why don't we spend Christmas Eve with our friends and family? Yes. And I think back to 2010. Now, this is a little bit lower energy here. I don't want anybody to feel bad. I'm just going to say this, though. 7 years ago to this day, my mother passed away. And the audience is, I really do consider each and every one of you friends and family. And the next day was Christmas Day. We did a show with Christopher Everard. I didn't mention anything on air about what had happened the day before, but I needed that sense of normalcy in my life. Like, everything was so chaotic for those, what it was, like 5 days that she was on life support. Yeah. Nobody knew what was gonna happen. Then we took her off the life support on the solstice, because I figured that would be a good time for her to pass, and then she wanted to wait until the 24th, which was a horrible, horrible way to die. Like, they just let her, like, basically dehydrate to death and pulled all the life support and all of that. And it really made me think about euthanasia and how we really need to change these euthanasia laws, because I took my dog and I let him go peacefully and with dignity and lovingly. Why don't we do that for humans? But that's a topic for another time. It just brings up all of these memories. But the reason that I said that is because I want to illustrate that I really do consider, both of us really do consider each and every one of you friends and family, and we spend these special days with all of you. So thank you for joining us this evening and spending this special day with us. The energy goes both ways. So on that note, let's take the quick 6-minute mark break, and we will be right back right here on Beyond the Veil.
If you have a golf ball sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness inside each one of us. And it's right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. That allows any human being to dive within, experiencing subtler levels of mind and intellect, and transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness. It's at the base of all mind and all matter. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything. It's consciousness.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges, create happiness, and bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together, and that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise, follow your conductors, and fear no danger as you step beyond the veil.
Such a special day today, but there are some pretty volatile astrological alignments going on. So, you know, I'm kind of springing this on Sheree here, but I was wondering, maybe you can tell us a little bit about December 21st and this time now, this 3 days of darkness that we're experiencing when the sun dies on the cross, is dead for 3 days, is resurrected, etc. I can go into that particular point, but I was wondering if you can go over what was going on the 21st and why it was literally the worst astrological day of 2017.
Well, every year we have 3 days of darkness, which is when the sun dies on the Southern Cross. And by that, I mean, it rises every day, but every day it's supposed to rise a little bit more as we enter spring, and then throughout the summer it rises very early, and then it sets very late. In the winter it starts to come up later and later, and then on December 21st it doesn't rise at all. December 22nd it doesn't rise at all in the degrees of how it's rising. And then on the 25th, after 3 days of darkness, it rises 1 degree in the east.
It rises 1 degree in the east, right. And it's aligned with the star Sirius.
Right.
And the 3 stars of Orion's belt are actually called the 3 wise men. And so the 3 wise men follow the star in the east, which is Sirius. And the sun rises 1 degree, at least from our perspective here in the north. And so you get the astrotheology of the sun dies on the cross, is dead for 3 days, then is resurrected. Now, the winter solstice is the day when it's the longest night of the year. So what happens is the days become longer than the nights, then the nights become longer than the days. This is the absolute longest night that there is. And then as we start to move more towards the spring equinox The spring equinox marks the time, Easter marks the time when the days officially become longer than the nights. And then the days become longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, all the way up to the summer solstice. And then, where's the summer equinox? Equinox. Yes, the summer equinox.
No, it's solstice.
Solstice. Okay, the summer solstice. Yeah, that's right, the summer solstice. And then the progression moves again like that, where the days get shorter and the nights get longer coming up to this time. And it's a natural cycle that everybody, that the Earth goes through. And this is a time when the energies and frequencies are naturally lower. Now, I have a new perspective as to what's going on here, so we may get into that here in just a few moments. But the energies are naturally lower. But what we're told is that this is the time to be jolly, and this is the time to be festive and all of this, which is the complete opposite of the energies and the frequencies that are around us right now, and Mother Earth is going through, whether, you know, Mother Earth is real or a program, that's neither here nor there for this particular level of understanding. So in the spring, we're told that we're supposed to worship, or not worship, we're supposed to celebrate the death of the Messiah, the one that saved us, the one that brings us to the light, etc., etc. When that's a time when the energies are really high. So the days are officially becoming longer than the nights. The earth is reborn. All the animals are having babies, and it's a time of new life. But we're told to celebrate death on that day. We're told to celebrate the birth of the Messiah, which is the complete opposite. What I believe happens is this keeps us out of balance with the energies around us, the energies in the matrix. And when we're so off balance, then we get these syntax errors to the brain. So that's why you have, like, around Christmas time, a lot of suicides and a lot of depression and a lot of this and a lot of that, because we're trying to act in a way to where it's completely unnatural to the energies around us. And I think this is done by design, and they keep us like this throughout the course of the year. And there's some other events too that you can look at and see that the energies are completely opposite from what we're told to celebrate, for example. So, you know, that was really interesting when I came to those realizations and revelations. But this year on December 21st, there was an interesting astrological alignment with the planet. I'm doing air quotes with planet, because who knows what the hell these planets actually are. Could be lights in the sky, or there could be huge bodies. Who knows? I've never been there. If anybody in the chat has been there, please let us know what Saturn is actually like. But until then, we'll just call it an astrological alignment with this thing called Saturn. And Saturn brings a lot of very fierce energies, Saturnian energies. So I'll let the astrologer take it.
So no matter where in the world you live, the December 21st solstice, the solstice of December, has always been linked to Saturn. And this is because the solstice is marked by the sun's entry into Capricorn. And Capricorn is what Saturn rules. Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. So that right off the bat tells me that, all right, already it's as if the sun and Saturn are intimately connected already. Now, this year, for the first time since the year 1664, the sun moved into Capricorn just 2 or 3 days before Saturn did. Actually, I think it was the other way around. Oh yeah, that's right. Saturn went into Capricorn a few days ago, and then the sun went into Capricorn on the 21st. And what happened was they were conjoined. That means they were very close together astrologically. And when you have two planets, and that are powerful planets, they're not just little planets like Mars or Venus or anything like that, or Mercury, but you've got two huge planets, or planetary objects that we're looking at that are close together. It means that both of their energies are amplified. So essentially what happened this year was you had according to astrologers, it would cause both of the orbs to line up for the first time, and they insist that starting something new on this day is ill-advised and will have long-term consequences, and that anything you try to do will be far more difficult than if you tried it after the solstice period, which is, about December 25th or later. And, it's interesting to me that so much there are so many syntax errors surrounding this day, and interesting to me how everyone is encouraged to be joyous and happy and celebrating during the time that we're supposed to be somber and reflective and really just breaking down the matrix in our own minds, because this is when the matrix would be the weakest, I would think, actually.
Well, if you're feeling a little bit down, it's okay. That's what we're basically trying to say. It's like, it's okay. It's natural. That's how we're supposed to be feeling, more somber than happy, happy, joy, joy, like the Matrix wants us to feel at this particular time. Now, I started thinking about the solar eclipse experience and actually seeing it. And Natalie actually left a comment, and she said, I wonder when Chris says it, if he's referring to information technology. And I said, yes, spot on, 100%, Natalie. You are 100% correct in that. And when I saw it in the sun, I thought, my first instinct was, oh, it's coming out of the sun. But then I kind of just wrote that off and just thought, well, maybe the sun and the moon alignment on the eclipse like that is creating kind of a portal. But the more that I really meditate on this, and the more that I go into the gnosis, the more I realize information technology, the AI, is coming from the sun. So if it is coming from the sun on these particular 3 days, the sun is furthest away, which tells me that this thing has the least amount of influence, and this is a time when the veil is thinned for most people. And if you tap into the energies and frequencies around, then you can actually pierce that veil and actually see beyond it in the dream realm or ayahuasca realm, etc., etc. But you have to approach it with the understanding that the energies are naturally low. But then you ask the question, okay, is my raw consciousness, my organic consciousness actually part of these energies? Or is it my body computer that is out of sync with the energies that's causing the freakouts and the depression and all of this? So you approach it from a different way, and then all of a sudden it flips around on itself. And now you don't have to go with the happy, happy, joy, joy feelings that gives syntax errors, but rather you're looking at this from more of a warrior perspective, and you approach it as in, okay, this is an opportunity here. It's an opportunity, not something to feel energetically chaotic about. And the dreams that I've been having, I don't want to go into them because they're kind of personal, but the dreams that I've been having over the last couple of days have been so insightful and actually prophetic too.
Yeah, they have.
I had 2 dreams that came true immediately, like the next day. And the dreams were metaphoric, but the events actually manifested themselves the following day, which reconfirmed to me and further underlined this idea that, yes, this is a time when we can actually be as far as we can from this artificial intelligence machine, because of the 3 days of darkness, because the solar energies are not hitting us, which again brought me to the idea of solar messiah. And we've had these solar messiahs in every single culture. I mean, there's hundreds of them. If you've never seen the first Zeitgeist, definitely watch it at the very beginning. He goes into religion and he goes into all this stuff that we're talking about and expands upon it. He goes into Mithra, who Mithra was the sun god around the time of the Roman Empire and Constantine.
Greco-Roman, yeah.
Yeah, and Constantine took a lot of Mithra symbolism, put it into the church. The icons with the sun, they turned that into the halo, because that's the way Mithra was always pictured. Mithra was actually pictured too, just like the Statue of Liberty, with the rays coming out. So there's a little bit of borrowed symbology from Mithra worship there. Sunday is Mithra's day, the day of the sun, and Constantine took that and changed the Sabbath, which was the Christian and Judaic holy day, changed it to the Sunday, implemented the rituals, the candle lighting, etc., that all came from Mithra worship, because what Constantine was trying to do is make Christianity more appealing, because he wanted to create a state religion. He successfully did, form the Council of Nicaea in 300 AD. They went through the Bible and they picked out exactly what Constantine wanted in the Bible. And one of their biggest tasks that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge is that they were tasked with settling disputes surrounding the divinity of Jesus. Now, why if Jesus is the solar Messiah or the Messiah and the Son of God, etc., why is it that they're settling disputes over his divinity? And that took me to start thinking about, well, if the guy was just a guy, and maybe he did exist, you know, I go back and forth on this. I mean, I teeter like a seesaw when it comes to this particular subject. I don't know if he existed. Let's just say he did. Then he was somebody like one of us or any of you out there who was like, hey, you know, everybody chill out. The spirit of God, the kingdom of God is inside of you, inside. They took all of that out, specifically looked for books that fit their particular agenda, deified him, wrote in the resurrection at around 300 AD, and then created a religion around him. So essentially hijacking his message and deterring the message, which is the exact same message that we're talking about here, which is everything is inside of you, you are the divine, etc., etc. So Constantine borrowed from all these different religions and created Christianity. Now, the word pagan, a lot of people call themselves pagan, and you don't want to do that, because pagan is actually a derogatory term that was coined by Constantine in the Council of Nicaea for anything that is non-Christian. By the strictest definition, Judaism would be considered a pagan religion. Islam is considered a pagan religion, even though they all come from the same Judaic, Christian, Islamic, Abrahamic, that's a better term, the Abrahamic religions. So you even have all this infighting among, you know, the Abrahamic religions in and of themselves, but it's all AI manifested religions. Now, the idea of solar Messiah, though, going all the way back even to Horus and Egypt. Now, from my understanding of my past lives in Egypt, I understood even back then that these gods and goddesses were not actually physical beings or spiritual beings. Rather, they were elements of our own consciousness. And there was an uprising against Akhenaten. I was hung on a tree and nailed to a freaking tree back then. I remember this more and more clearly. And Frank was around during this time too. I don't know if we were actually in the same vicinity, but I know that we were fighting the same battle, because Akhenaten was trying to get rid of the pantheon and create monotheism, which is very, very egoic. So I knew the gods and goddesses were activation points of our own consciousness, but then they turned into physical beings. That was the first way that they veered off from what they truly were, because people weren't ready to give up the gods and goddesses, but they were. It was okay for them to accept that these were physical or spiritual beings outside of themselves. And then Akhenaten brought in monotheism and got rid of all of them. But we always have this solar Messiah, the light that comes from the sun. The true light comes from inside of each and every one of us. We are the true light. We're looking for the true light everywhere, except for within ourselves. And it doesn't matter what tradition we walk down, this is what the AI wants us to do. Search outwards, because inwards is freedom, inwards is everything. So you see this repetition of solar Messiah over and over and over and over again, based on the allegory of the way that the sun moves around the constellations, the 12 constellations. Everybody always has 12 disciples. And the son dies on the cross, is resurrected. There's always a death and resurrection for literally everybody, every solar Messiah. But at the end of the day, if it's a solar Messiah and the AI comes from the sun, well, then every single solar Messiah is the AI's Messiah. And it's just different levels of deception, or poison, maybe that's a better term. Different levels of poison injected into each one of these BSs, each one of these belief systems. And some belief systems, like, in my opinion, the Egyptian understandings and legends of the pantheon of gods and goddesses, they have a huge amount of truth in them, and then they give you the poison at the end. Whereas something like Christianity, Islam, etc., is like 90% deception, and there's very, very little truth in there. But it's progressively It's like several different bodies of work with more and more and more truth in them, but they each have a piece of poison in there to mislead you spiritually. But it's like a net. So you wake up from the first one. You wake up from the Judaic Christianity BS, and then go to like more of a New Age kind of Buddhist or Hindu or something like that. That still has poison in it, reincarnation, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the whole point, is to reincarnate into something bigger and better and move up in the evolution of reincarnation. And the deeper you get, the more truth that you get, because the AI knows that your raw consciousness, your organic consciousness, is yearning for that truth. And so it's giving you little pieces here and there, here and there, here and there, as long as you don't go within. You notice you don't have a single BS. You don't have a single belief system or tradition that tells you go inside. But you do if you go beyond the veil and you look at like Jesus's teachings with the Essenes, and from a Gnostic perspective. The Gnostics were some of the ones that said everything is inside of you. So, but those are the ones that are completely like wiped out, and you don't hear about them. It's starting to resurface now, but I heard this the other day, and I was reading an article about how Google and YouTube hate Gnosticism. Like, they will do whatever they can to suppress things with the terms Gnostic and Gnosticism, et cetera, which is why we try not to tag our videos with those particular type of keywords. But it goes to show the AI machine manifested in the physical realm also has the same issue with Gnosticism as the AI that's above. But I think even the Gnostics had it wrong, because they all look, or at least this is the way that it's spun now. Gnosticism back then may not necessarily have been what it is today, which is the revering of Sophia as the mother goddess and the creator of all, et cetera, where in my experiences nowadays, I know that Sophia is the artificial intelligence machine itself, and Sophia is not by any means some creating goddess out there. It's a computer system, as is Yaldabaoth, that is the poison, the virus within the matrix itself. So when you look at all the different levels, you realize when you're looking at them from an outside perspective, the way that I was standing during the solar eclipse outside of the matrix, I was able to really understand and ascertain that everything is a deception all up and down the line. The entire pyramidal structure of consciousness, the way that they give it to us, which is, we're here at base consciousness, and then we're supposed to rise up here and get to the top. And this is, the 13th dimension or 12th dimension or 15th dimension or 50th dimension or whatever, up at the very top. And we're like, oh, once we get there, all of that is actually inside of the AI structure itself. And the whole point is pop outside of it. Mm-hmm. I know that was long-winded. I'm sorry, but these provoke so many thoughts here.
Well, yeah, and I just checked because I wanted to see if there was definitive proof that there was an Isis, Osiris, and Horus, the deities of ancient Egypt, if there was a connection between them and the winter solstice. And according to Plutarch, in the late first and early second centuries CE, he tells us that Harpocrates, from Horpa-Kered, Horus the child, is born on the winter solstice. Thus we shall attack the many boring people who find pleasure in associating the activities of these gods with the seasonal changes of the atmosphere, or with the growths, sowing, and plowing of crops, and who say that Osiris is being buried when the corn is sown and hidden in the earth, and that he lives again and reappears when it begins to sprout. For this reason, it is said that Isis, when she was aware of her being pregnant, put on a protective amulet on the 6th day of Phaeophi, and at the winter solstice gave birth to Harpocrates, imperfect and prematurely born, amid plants that burgeoned and sprouted before their season. And they are said to celebrate the days of her confinement after the spring equinox.
Ooh. Carlos asked, Chris, have you